Okay.
If you couldn't tell, this is the first time we're doing this.
Welcome to the first episode of Unfolded, where we explore technology, business, and culture. I'm Karan Navani. I love business, I love technology, and ultimately, I want to have a business in space.
Wow, how do you top that? I'll go next. I'm Joe, and I've always loved startups, literally all we talk about. I really like to understand what makes businesses tick and how they make money.
Awesome. I'm Marco Souza Lau. I am Portuguese, and I like tech and films. I'm probably the most inconsistent YouTuber ever.
That's proof.
Yeah, at Tech Snackles, you can find me on YouTube. And I have the better mic. So that's me.
Okay, so what is the point of the show, Joe? Any ideas?
I was just about to ask you, Karen. Yeah, I guess we realised that a lot of people our age maybe don't read business news because a lot of it's really quite boring. Same for tech stuff, unless you kind of get the jargon. We talk about it a lot. Karen and Marco both mentioned things that I've never heard of before, and we figured it'd be really cool if we share it with you guys too.
Firstly, how dare you call tech boring? Okay, keep that for business. Yeah, and really, we want to keep this like an open discussion. So the comment section down below is open for you guys. So whatever you have to say, just say it. Unless it's hateful stuff, then please be nice to us. Yeah, please. Anyway,
Yeah.
Karan gets hurt quite easily. Yeah, but anyway.
Cool. So what actually are we going to do in this episode? How are we going to go about this?
Yeah, we had to think about this, and we all are talking about startups. This is one of the cool things about a business. These are emerging, small and early stage businesses solving really, really cool problems that we face every day. So we're going to start off with 10 minutes of a startup spotlight. So this is essentially one of us is going to bring a really cool startup that we found for this week, and we're going to discuss what we think about it, what it's similar to. So after the startup spotlight, we're going to go straight into what we call a deep dive. So this is the area of the podcast where we talk about what's going on in the news this week. So it could be a startup, could be a bigger business, could be a piece of technology that's come out. Maybe it's Apple releasing the new version of the iPhone every month. We're going to talk about it, and we're going to see how it goes.
Cool. So for this week, we have Marco with his startup in the spotlight.
Yeah. Okay, so this was pretty big news in the startup industry. I mean, I don't know if you can still call this company a startup after this much money got financed. So OFO, O-F-O, which I don't actually know what it stands for. So this is a bike sharing startup. So we're in London at the moment, and they have a presence here in London. So you see, they're kind of like, if you've seen the Boris bikes, they used to be Barclays, and now I think they belong to Santander. Mm-hmm. You can kind of rent a bike for a day, and obviously you pay a certain amount of money. So this startup does that, but you use an app, and you can just leave the bike anywhere. The thing with the Boris bike, I don't know if I'm even should be calling it the Boris bike, but I think that's what everyone calls it, is that you have to leave them at these little hotspots. Yeah. While this one, you can basically throw it anywhere, which to me is kind of a problem, but we can talk about that in a bit. But basically, they raised $866 million in a financing led by Alibaba. So according to them, they have 200 million users who generate 32 million transactions each day on this platform. It was founded back in 2014. It is a Chinese company. It is a competitor to Mobike, but I mean, that is a lot of money. So I'm guessing that part of the Alibaba, for example, is seeing a lot of potential in this. Mm-hmm. I just wonder, does it have that much potential? Is bike sharing and bike renting? A lot of times I see in London, most people have their own bikes, but is bike renting really a business for the future? And then also about this business model, kind of like Netflix, Spotify, Apple Music, where you don't actually own anything. You pay a subscription fee, and it's all almost like renting something. Is this the business model for the future? I don't know. You guys are more business minded than I am. I just wonder, is this a business model for the future? Do you see the potential that Alibaba is seeing in such a startup?
Yeah. I mean, I know Joe actually used them to go to work.
Yeah, I used to use the Santander bikes. They were really cool. In London, I think they're £2 for 24 hours, so really cheap and good for you as well. I can't really stand getting the tube in the morning, so it's a nice change. The only thing with the Santander bikes, like you mentioned, is that you have to know where the docking station is to finish the journey, right? And so what happens is I'll kind of get within maybe half a mile of where I'm going. I'll have to pull over, open the Santander app, and then figure out where I'm going to park this thing. And then drive one-handed whilst I'm looking at the map to try and find the docking station in the end. With OFO, I literally drop it wherever I want. So, like you mentioned, it could be a big problem. Everybody dropping these bikes like at the side of the road. They've started to introduce this thing now where you have to finish the journey in a certain vicinity, because they were realizing that OFO bikes were ending up like miles out of London, which is obviously not great for their model. It costs money to get them back in. But I love them. I absolutely love them. And I think it's 50p for half an hour. Plug and play. It's pay as you go, straight off.
So 50p, that's quite cheap. And as you said, they raised a lot of money. So do you think what they're trying to do now is trying to get people through the door and actually taking a loss? So they're subsidizing the loss to get market share. What's the play here? Do you think people are going to stop using it if they increase prices? Just trying to think of the business model here. What's the strategy? If I was the founder of the company, what would be my vision?
I think certainly with like $800 million of investment, that is a cash shedding machine, right? So that is the model that they're going for. It's whoever has the majority market share. Exhausts and drowns out all the competitors. So the two that are in my mind at the minute is OFO, like you mentioned. Last month, I think it was Mobike that raised $600 million. So it's a really, really tight race for the market share.
Yeah. I was just reading here that both OFO and Mobike, so this is according to TechCrunch, everything I'm reading here is according to TechCrunch, have reached valuations of more than $1 billion. And they hold over 90% of China's bike sharing market, and there are quite a lot of cyclists in China. So that's obviously a big market for them. But again, I just wonder, is it just a fad? Will it fade away?
Will it fade away? Sorry. Okay, but if you play this out, right? If you play this out into the future, let's say we have self-driving cars now. The cost of each ride is really minimal because you're not paying human drivers to drive the cars. They're autonomous, which means you can carpool at a really low cost. And these cars are going to be everywhere because the whole transport system is going to be so efficient. Where do these things come into that picture then? Are people still going to make a choice to bike to work just because it's healthier, or they're just going to skip that, go for what's convenient and change their lifestyle like that?
Here's the thing. See, I would ride. So I'm doing my placement here in London, so I'm here for 1 year only. See, I would ride a bike every day to work because in a year, I mean, the total of that cost would not equal buying a bike. So that's why I would do it. But if you live here, wouldn't it just make more sense to buy the product outright, just have a bicycle? Why would you rent out a bike? Why would you use such a service? That's my only concern.
Yeah, so for me, I was thinking about this because I actually have a bike at home, which is not in London, but I could have brought that bike here. How many bikes do you see at the side of the road that get kicked to pieces and tires slashed and just seats taken off? To be honest, I don't want that to happen to my bike. Second thing is, the beauty about OFO is that you never have to think, where is my bike? Where did I leave my bike, right? So if I ride to work, I don't have to ride back. I can walk back, I can go somewhere else, and I don't have to think about my bike. That is the best thing about OFO.
That's the thing, though. It's like, what if there are no bikes? What if everyone just took all the bikes around you, and then you got to get home, and you don't have any money, and all you have is the OFO app. I think, does it use an app? Is it to unlock the bike? Yeah. So all you have is that, and then how the hell do you get home? That's the only thing about this new concept of renting bikes for a day or something that, yeah, I'm just not too sure about it, because if everyone takes the bike out of your area, then how are you getting home? And yeah, I mean, they'll probably keep growing. They'll probably keep adding more bikes, which again is another problem. We'll just have all these bikes vandalized, probably not vandalized, but in the middle, just thrown anywhere in the middle of the street. But how can you keep up with the demand? And
yeah, I guess that's like a supply problem, isn't it? Where they have to find ways to either gamify or incentivize people to drop the bikes where they want them to.
And they are doing that. They do that at the minute. So OFO have got a point system. And as I understand, you can use those points to get discounts on future rides. So I think the other day, because I'd done, like, say, 10 rides and I'd left it in a hotspot or a vicinity that they preferred, I got £5 free credit. So that's 10 free rides. So it's good for me to play by the rules.
Oh, that's cool.
So they're incentivizing.
So they probably have like a heat map, right, of where most people are going to take the bikes from, and then they incentivize you to drop it there. Makes sense. But I'm just wondering, how do they manage? So as you said, like, you see bikes being kicked and tires being slashed.
Yeah.
How do they prevent? Because obviously bikes are not cheap, and if it keeps happening on a large scale to their bikes, that's a big loss for them. How do you think they tackle against that?
Yeah, I think it's one of the big problems. Certainly with Santander, they had the same problem. But Santander, the bikes that are fixed into the dock, just to recap, so those are even trickier to vandalize, right? Because they know when you've got your credit card, when you insert it to get the bike out, that you and only you are using it for that period of time. Whereas without even unlocking an OFO bike, I can physically pick it up and walk over and take it into my shed and take the wheels off or whatever. Now, they're pretty robust. Like, they're quite hard to take apart.
Oh, yeah.
I haven't tried. But yeah, I would imagine it's a real like cost for them. And it's an overhead that they'll have to build in, right? These things are going to happen.
yeah, I just thought of another advantage actually. If you're going shopping or something, you can just leave the bike anywhere. If it was your bike, you probably have to find somewhere to park it, which I guess is a advantage of just renting one out for a day. But then again, yeah, I'm still not too sure about that whole business idea.
Let's think about what happens though, right? So you have OFO. If I'm the CEO of OFO, or maybe more important for what we're trying to get at here, I'm the CFO. So I control all the cash coming in and out. So we've invested in all these bikes. Hundreds of millions of people are using these bikes every month. 30 million users a day, maybe 30 million rides. That's what OFO is doing right now. Their CEO projects in the future, in the next 5 years, that could go up to 300 million rides a day worldwide. So think about all those 50p's coming into my account. That is cash sitting in the bank. Now, what do you think they're going to do with that cash? Because I don't think they're going to put it in a 2% interest rate current account. They're going to invest that money on behalf of the people that are using their service, OFO, and they're going to be able to gain a massive return simply because they are sitting on a huge pile of cash.
I'd like to make one final point, which is, I don't think there's anything unique about them. They don't have any technology that anyone else can copy. They don't have any business model that anyone else can't take. So don't they risk being undercut quite easily as Uber is being done in Chinese markets? Actually, they had to exit the Chinese market because they were being undercut by Didi. They had to merge. So I'm just wondering, what's the true value here then in their business? Is it just first mover advantage? Is it that they want to be the first people and get that loyalty and get people locked in?
I think it's who comes first of mind, right? When you think I'm going to ride to work today on a bike that doesn't belong to me, who comes to mind? And for me, personally, it's OFO, only because I've built that trust with them now that less bikes from OFO, in my experience, are at the side of the road because they need to be maintained. Sometimes when I go up to a Mo bike, and I'm sure this is not the case for all of them, something doesn't work on the bike. So when I try to unlock it using the QR code, it says, this bike's unavailable, down for maintenance. So that just becomes like a frustrating experience for me. Okay. After a few times of using OFO, I think, just to answer your question there, I think it's first to market share.
Okay.
Yeah, I think so as well. I mean, you look at Uber. I mean,
yeah,
I don't think there are many challenges.
Yeah, they're synonymous with ride sharing now, isn't it? With car sharing. Yeah.
Yeah, you'll just get that loyalty. As long as you don't suck and your app doesn't suck, then you should be fine. you should really dominate it.
Cool. Yeah, well, Marco, that was a really interesting company that you brought up here. Okay, so shall we move on to our next segment?
Sure, let's do it.
Yep. Okay, so this is the next segment of the show, which is Deep Dive. Deep Dive is all about discussing the coolest stories we've come across in the week about business, tech, culture, and just discussing opinions on it and exploring the matter more.
Sweet. Okay. So this week's deep dive for me is going to be a really, really heartfelt story of mine. As a child, I loved to shop here. This was the favorite place to be at Christmas. First of all, guys, where did you grow up buying your toys? Did you have toys?
Yes. Toys? Yes. I did have a childhood, yes.
So when we say toy store, what store comes to mind?
Toys R Us?
Toys R Us?
Yeah.
Okay. Same for me, which is why it's really, really hard for me to announce. Actually, give me a moment. To announce that Toys R Us has gone bankrupt this week. So Toys R Us essentially filed for what's called Chapter 11, which is essentially bankruptcy where they need some time to get their creditors off their back. So the people they owe money to, they need to move some cash around and make it work so they can hopefully come back to life. So Toys R Us has filed for bankruptcy. Is that a surprise? I mean, in the world of e-commerce, in the world of everything's on your mobile at the touch of a button with Amazon Prime, I can get my kids delivered a toy 2 days before Christmas Day like that. Do I need Toys R Us?
Until the midnight of Christmas now, actually.
Really?
Yes. But yeah, no, it doesn't come as a surprise to me because...
So just so I've understood that right. So the guy that delivers, so it's like Santa Prime. The guy that turns up... Can you imagine?
I think we should get the rights to that name before someone takes it away.
Santa Prime.
Amazon Santa Prime.
Sell it back to Amazon.
It's Christmas.
This is good. No, I feel, when old people...
Here's just some...
Viewers in the audience, I hope those comments don't offend you. Go ahead, Joe.
When older people mention, oh, when I was a kid, this was one of those moments when you just said that then. I just felt like I was way behind. So Amazon now, you can get kids' presents delivered the night before Christmas Day, and they will turn up on that day. Why do I need Toys R Us?
Exactly, which is why it doesn't come as a shock to me. Think of all the locations Toys R Us has, right? They're in big malls and expensive locations and prime locations. That's a lot of expensive real estate that they need to keep paying for. In addition to that, the space utilization, if you think about it, is quite low because I don't think they have a lot of analytics in how these toys are moving. They can't optimize it real time, mainly because their strategy is to just keep it in display, keep it shelved. Whereas someone like Amazon, who doesn't have to publicly display all their products, they can be a bit more intelligent with how they manage their logistics and warehouse. And besides, I don't even know I don't know what's the culture with toys in the present day. Do kids buy toys? Do they use iPads? I don't know.
This is the thing. If I'm a parent and I want to entertain my kids, I want to treat them to something, why would I go out and buy a toy for £25 from Toys R Us when I can get them a free app? I can literally, at the push of a button, they can download something which will keep them occupied for days and days. One thing I wanted to touch on actually is if we think about like the mindset of a parent going in to buy your kid a toy. Toys R Us only sells toys. Now there's spin-offs, so there's Babies R Us, there's Kids R Us. Neither of them have been performing too well. But essentially, if I'm a parent, I have to go out of my way to a shop, Toys R Us, to buy them toys which I can't buy my groceries from, which I can't buy anything else that I need to buy for that week. Whereas at Walmart or Target, all of those things are in one place. And actually what they do is, these big companies like Walmart use the toys as a loss leader. They use that, they purposefully discount that product so much so that the kid bugs their mum to go to Walmart, and it's a way for Walmart to capture attention of the parents because once they're in, they're not just going to buy the kid a toy. Yeah. They're going to spend the rest of their £100, £150 there when the toy might only cost £10. Yep. So that's a really, really interesting technique that they use to draw the parents in.
Yeah. So sorry, I'll just take a few notes. Yeah, I think that the demise of Toys R Us really comes down to two things: really, smartphones, or any smart device that you can put in the hands of a child nowadays, and they know how to use it, and their digital or online strategy. I mean, I've never really recently gone on the Toys R Us website, so I'm gonna guess it's not very good anyway, especially because I don't know. I feel like a lot of companies nowadays, especially in retail, they're just closing down because they don't have a good online strategy. We're seeing with some clothing companies, like if we look at H&M, they've been going down. Is it profits or they're kind of going downhill when until a few months ago they were such a big thing still, and it's because, well, at least analysts say it's because they don't have a good online strategy. They haven't adapted to the current market. So that's kind of the reason. And also, kids get tired of toys. You play with them for 5 minutes and then you're tired. You want the next thing. And let's say you have a smartphone, you get an app for free. They get tired of it, just get another app, and they're entertained for a couple more days, months. When was the last time you saw a big trend, like a big hype at Toys R Us? You see a lot of clothing trends now, big collabs between companies. I keep referring to clothing companies, even though this is a toys company. But they still need to do something fresh, and I feel like they didn't do that. Again, you see a lot of hype beasts with clothing. There are no toy beasts, whatever that means. It's like there's no hype around it. They didn't do anything interesting. They didn't do anything, I feel, nostalgic that would just appeal to people. Like Nintendo resurging recently with releasing their old consoles from back in the days. Toys R Us could have done something like that, and maybe there would be more hype around the brand name, and people would remember that Toys R Us exists.
And actually, you mentioned the online presence, right? Only 4% of Toys R Us' entire revenue comes from online purchases. So think about that. Think about all of the opportunities it has. It's got these huge warehouses. Shops are just like warehouses, right? And they're kind of a bit dull to go around once you get over the kind of like kids mindset euphoria. It's just a big tin box with a lot of high shelves and stacked full of toys, which is easy to see why the experience couldn't keep up with something like Amazon, or like you said, the ability to download an app just like that for free.
Okay, so Joe, you mentioned about the experience, right? Yeah. And that leads me to the story that I have for the week, which is about Larry Page, the co-founder of Google. He's trying to change how we experience transportation, and he's trying to do that with flying cars. Flying cars, yes. So he has this company called Kitty Hawk, okay? And they just went public with a new prototype, so to speak, and they've uploaded a really cheesy YouTube video, which I need to show you guys and get your thoughts on this.
Okay.
Kitty Hawk.
Kitty Hawk, yes.
Marco, you need to see this.
Kitty Hawk.
Okay, so
I can see it from there. Don't worry.
So this.
Kitty Hawk. Seriously, Larry, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, Larry, come on.
Okay,
Kitty Hawk.
and this particular model is called Cora, Cora, right? So, this is.
Get out of here.
She is.
Is this real?
Yeah. So they're testing in New Zealand.
Can you imagine what that must feel like?
Must be great when that crashes down on top of someone and just completely slices them into pieces.
God, you guys are real cynics, aren't you?
Hey, look, man, we just have had a health and safety training.
Look at that.
Okay.
I don't know what to feel about this. But the interesting part for this is that you don't need any license. You don't need a driving license or a pilot license.
Okay. Is Elon Musk investing in flying cars?
You see, that's a very interesting point. I wanted to mention that because I'm biased and I'm team Elon, okay? But that's because I also agree with this philosophy, which is, I don't know how safe flying cars are and how practical they are, because Elon Musk's strategy is to have tunnels, which is not disturbing anyone above ground, and he has this really efficient magnetic system underground. And the thing about height is that there's only so far you can go, but with underground systems you actually have a lot of leeway to keep digging and like form these different layers. I don't know if you've seen Blade Runner, but in Blade Runner there's this point where someone initiates this hack and all the electricity and all the power just goes down in the city, and all these flying cars, they just crash, right? And I know there's going to be a lot of security and all that testing, but is just unpractical, right? It's good. It's noisy, and there's things flying above your head.
See, that's yeah. I mean, that's kind of the reason why I think that flying cars will never take off.
Yep.
Oh my. Oh, it's too late for that. It's too late for that.
But I don't know. At least in the current state of technology, I don't see it taking off anytime soon. I just don't see us having flying cars right now or anytime soon. It's just that's why I mean I trust Elon as well. If he's digging tunnels, I say the future is underground and not overground.
Yeah, this is actually being led by the person responsible for Google's autonomous driving cars and all these other moonshot projects, which is Sebastian Thrun. He's like this crazy genius.
But where can you fly this thing? Like, aren't there regulations? Why would I want this? Where could I actually fly it? And
Exactly. It's just not ready. But I'm just wondering if this is something that's going to happen because Uber's investing in this. I think Volkswagen is investing in this, but it's a space that a lot of people are getting excited about and a lot of people are moving into. It's called urban air mobility. I just don't know if there's any substance to this.
I mean,
I think a lot of really forward-looking startups, particularly in London as well. There's a few guys that operate out of Google campus that are working on this kind of thing. They're trying to create an alliance between people that own all of these different rooftops in London. And so the idea is that I could effectively use an Airbnb type model to rent out some of my flight space to land your helicopter on. And I'm going to earn a commission on that, and you're going to land without crashing into the people below. Both of us are happy.
Yep.
Really interesting to think about how you would even go about regulating this.
Yep.
It's not like a tunnel where it's like a predefined path that everybody follows along.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't want you to fly into me. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I feel you, man.
Oh, man.
Yeah, I share that feeling.
I was just imagining a bunch of controlless idiots just flying in the air and just the world just falling into chaos. All these people just falling from the sky, which is not funny, but
This is why Marco is a creative director.
I mean, it's just, I mean, if you're on the ground and you have an accident, you're on the ground. If you're coming from up there, I mean, yeah, that's not very good, is it?
Yeah.
Imagine how that must feel, though. Imagine walking out of the office after a long day at work, and instead of getting on your OFO that actually is down for maintenance because somebody slashed a tire, you could go to the top floor of your building and catch an Uber Air, which is their concept urban air mobility vehicle at the minute, to the nearest rooftop near your house. Imagine that.
Yeah, and then you see the surge pricing, so you just decide to jump
And
off
then
the
you
roof.
see their 20 times surge pricing and you're like,
So
I'm
you're,
never doing
yeah,
this.
so you're just like jumping off the roof.
Yeah.
Okay. But here's the thing. This is quite out there, and again, we're probably a few years from this if it ever even happens. We're a couple years away. Then there's drone deliveries, and those haven't really taken off, have they? I mean, I haven't found out any more about it.
You can get pizza by drones and stuff.
And again, they're doing autonomous driving vehicles for pizza, and they're all very. It's,
Again, why?
I'm sorry, dude. I know you just want the pizza.
drones they're not. I haven't really heard anything more about this whole drone situation on deliveries. So now we're going to cars even before we figure out how we could do drones, and then we're gonna have drones and cars flying around, and then airplanes. I mean, probably won't even need pilots at some point. Why aren't we doing
Actually,
autonomous?
most flights are actually autonomous.
Yeah, they just need someone sitting in there. Yeah.
But do you remember what happened? Sorry. Do you remember what happened to Amazon's share price when they released that concept video of the Amazon drone delivery, right?
Prime Air, yeah.
Prime Air.
I think the share price went up like 6% in one day just because of that video. And it was purely concept at that time.
Yeah, but then it's also because it's hype and it's Amazon.
Right.
Anywho,
Yeah. I mean.
I think this is something that is quite sketchy now, but we just have to see how that plays out, right? Okay, Marco, on to your story.
Okay, so last topic, South by Southwest, probably the biggest thing that went on this week, I think. So in case you don't know, South by Southwest is this massive event in America, Austin, Texas, to be precise. So The Verge called it a multimedia festival. I call it like a cultural event. There's a lot of things going on, music, tech, again, cultural, that's basically everything. And there was obviously a lot of things going on. But I picked out just a few things that might pique your interest. First of all, quite a bit around AR. So we had Bose doing something with AR, but around the sound. So they built, if I can actually find the article.
How would that even work with the sound? Karen, have you heard about this before?
Yeah. So Bose is doing this really cool thing, as Marco was about to say, with augmented reality, but audio.
Yeah, so they're glasses, but it's with a focus on sound.
Right. So unlike Google Glass, for example, which would lay things out over your vision, Bose is trying to go for the approach that they are really good at, which is audio. And they're trying to get contextual with audio by giving you information when you need it the most. So for example, let's say you're in a museum and you see a painting that you want to know more about. It knows because of a few sensors in the glass and in your phone. It can tell what you're looking at, and based on that, it can give you information about the painting. It can tell you more things like that. Or if you're walking down the street and you're like, I want to know what's the rating of the restaurant, it can just give you feedback. And that's what they're trying to do.
Wow, that's pretty cool. That's a pretty cool take on AR, because from most of the things that we've seen so far are, the typical AR holographic projection on your eyes. The other thing I also wanted to mention, well, something just a side note, there was the Westworld simulation going on. Yeah, so slightly spoiler alert, if you haven't seen Westworld and you're interested in watching it, it is basically a series where they live in a simulated environment. So it's a real environment, but the people there, it's a recreated. There's a storyline. It's a bit hard to explain. But people there are robots. They're programmed. They're pretty intelligent. They're like artificial intelligence.
Yeah. So it's like an attraction park, right? It's an amusement park, which has robots inside it, and people go there for their own amusement, and they can do with these robots whatever they want, and that's the storyline. Yeah.
So definitely a must watch in case you haven't seen it. But yeah, they had this whole simulated thing going on at South by Southwest, which from the tweets I've been seeing from famous people, they've all been going on it, looked pretty awesome. Then Sony also had an AR hologram showing. So they had these objects on the table like a piano. So as you can see, you had an object, you moved, and the projector, I'm guessing this is a projector, it immediately adapted to the new position of the object.
Wait, because this looks very real. That's a hologram.
Yeah. Well, the object is real. Well, the physical, it's like almost like a canvas object. It's just blank, and you move it, and then the piano is projected on it.
That's really cool.
So how useful could this be? Not 100% sure. It's definitely fun. I mean, if you can, there's probably a lot of creative things you can do around it. Yeah. So that's something cool, and it is getting better. So this is not completely new from Sony, but it's just getting better and better. So holograms are.
Yeah, I guess it would be cool to give like context to things. Like for example, we were discussing toys before. Imagine now you just give some kind of like a blank sheet in a way to a kid, right? And the value is in some kind of projector that projects different things on it, and the context of the toy changes accordingly, maybe. Yeah, but anyways, cool. It'd be interesting to see what happens with that technology.
Yeah, and then just the last announcement is that YouTube will add information from Wikipedia to videos about conspiracies.
Wait, say that again?
So YouTube will add information from Wikipedia to videos about conspiracies.
How does that work? How do they do that?
So I'm guessing that they will. I actually don't know. Can't think of a good example of conspiracies.
Moon landing faked.
Yeah, they'll probably pull up a Wikipedia page. That's actually interesting. I do not know where they're gonna show the information itself. Don't know if they've shown that. Does anyone have internet here?
Yeah. So it's what you mentioned. So there's like a Wikipedia snippet just under the video.
So is it in the description, or would it be above the description?
Just above the title of the video.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's interesting. So what? Did they click to know more?
It's just like that.
Oh, that's cool. Okay. Oh, is that the moon landing as well?
Yeah.
Oh, nice guess.
And it's the most popular conspiracy, right?
That's true.
Okay, cool. So that brings our first episode to an end. I think this was a really cool experience for us. We had a lot of fun, shared a lot of interesting stories, and learned a lot of cool stuff.
very inconsiderate to our younger viewers.
All right, guys. Well, these guys are trying to wrap up. Well, I'll give it my best shot. Thank you, everyone, for watching. This has been a lot of fun for us. On behalf of Unfolded, this has been a really, really great start to the podcast. If there's anything in future you'd like us to talk about or something you want to share with us, a cool startup you've come across, feel free to drop it in the comments section down below. And we will see you next time. Cheers.
And we're done. That's how it's done.
Buddies.